Friends, the heat is on. I'll let you know if I see any relief for the week ahead, and we could potentially have our first tropical development in the Eastern Pacific. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here with you at Meteo Mundo on this Monday. Hope you had a great weekend and a great start to the week. Coming up, we've got to talk about how hot and dry we have been across our area. I'm going to break down the rain chance for the week ahead, and the first potential tropical development in the Eastern Pacific could come our way later this week. As we get started, thank you so much for liking the video. If you are new to Meteo Mundo and you've been looking for your daily forecasts across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found your home. Thank you so much for clicking that subscribe button. All right, friends, let's get started. You're looking at our enhanced satellite imagery. We are looking at our current temperatures on this Monday afternoon. I do want you to note that our area is generally devoid of any heavy showers and storms and clouds, and it is getting hot. Last couple of videos, I've asked you in the comment section below to let me know how things have been going in your area, and many of you have chimed in how hot and dry it's been, anywhere from just being kind of uncomfortably hot to really having some problems, some wildfire issues, some drought issues, low cistern levels, just low water levels in general. So we're going to kind of break down some of the short-term situations I see and talk a little bit about the longer-term scenarios as well. So the first thing I want to do here, and again, at Meteo Mundo, one of the things I really like to focus on and what's happening here and now. I can show you all this live information. Of course, we have our live lightning data when we do have some storms. You're looking at live temperatures on this mid-Monday afternoon, which have reached the lower 90s in places like Cancun and Cozumel. Western side of the Yucatan, we're in the triple digits. It's another exceptionally hot day in Belize. Lower 90s along the coast. San Ignacio has reached the low triple digits. There is a heat advisory for inland locations, and that should continue for the next several days. It's not going to get any cooler in these areas. Even the northern coastline of Honduras is outrageously hot. San Pedro Sula above 100, even Roatan has gone above 94 today. You can see some of the very hot conditions throughout this area down towards Nicaragua. Now, we do have some storms along the Pacific coastline of the Caribbean and then portions of Panama and Costa Rica, and these are about it. And again, you can see the live lightning data. It's a good push of tropical moisture, and as I mentioned, tropical moisture is developing in Panama and Costa Rica, but moving west and into the Pacific rather than staying in the Southwest Caribbean to either try and spin up anything tropically, or if anything else, give us a little bit more in the way of some rain chances. All of that is moving off towards the west, and that's why the Pacific could see some potential tropical development here over the next 7 days. Now, for my friends in the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, it's getting hot, it's getting dry, friends. We're at or above 90 in most spots, and again, we're starting to dry out. So now we're really starting to feel the impacts of that. Feels like temperatures above 100 degrees in many spots. Montego Bay 88, but Kingston has reached 90 degrees. We're drying out through Hispaniola as well. Can't rule out an isolated shower or storm here later today, but generally much drier than what we've seen. And that means temperatures are beginning to climb. Santo Domingo above 90 degrees, on over towards Punta Cana, nearly hitting 90 as well. It's about the same scenario through the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands. Again, you know, you can just ignore that St. Thomas side. Unfortunately, it's just not giving us the right number. But other than that, we're seeing upper 80s to near 90. There actually is a heat advisory for Puerto Rico until 5 o'clock Atlantic Standard Time for today. So yes, they've dried out some, but now the heat is on in this area here. So you go from the flooding concerns to being outrageously hot. And this kind of heat will continue for the Lesser Antilles. Again, we start to also see the Saharan dust layer coming into play, especially the farther south that we go. So it's not an outrageously hot day for Anguilla and St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua, but we start to bump near 90 degrees, and then we go above that. Guadeloupe, Dominica, someone in chat was talking about how dry it is on the southern coast of Dominica, and they're up 93 again for today. Martinique, 91. St. Lucia, 90 to 91 degrees. Barbados there. Bridgetown area, 88 degrees. Grenada, 88. Trinidad, Tobago, 90, 91. And again, at this point in time, we don't see any of that moisture coming off the mainland and moving into those areas. So we continue to stay hot and dry. ABC Islands, again, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, we're not really showing you any in the way of cloud coverage or any chance for some rain there, and temperatures again continue to be exceptionally hot. On over towards my friends in the Bahamas, where we do have again a short-term drought watch in effect. Some folks have chimed in about what's happening in Abaco and the wildfire threat there. And again, the dry conditions will persist in this region. We'll talk about trying to get a slightly better chance for some showers and storms in this area beginning on Wednesday. But friends, you can just see how dry it is. I'm going to throw on the water vapor imagery here. And this really has been a story. It's been feast or famine, and there's been a lot of famine. I mean, there's been a lot of dry areas and exceptionally dry areas for a while now. It really was only portions of Jamaica, but especially Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands that just had too much rain in a short amount of time. But now we are beginning to dry out some more, and that's going to cause some problems. I want to talk about something that I came upon here. It's from the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum, okay? They talked about near record heat in the Caribbean region from April, so already from last month, all the way to September, okay? And they're actually particularly concerned about the months of August and September. Now, again, when we don't have tropical systems in play, these are our hottest months. I mean, it's already outrageously hot. And again, without the tropical moisture coming in a very consistent pattern here through mid-May, that's why we've really dried out and got really hot. But it could get even worse if we don't have that tropical moisture during the peak of hurricane season. An example that they gave was that Barbados is expected to have 30 to 50 heat waves during this time. So you're just talking about some outrageous heat, which may not be really cold, if you will, throughout most of the area here anytime soon. So the dry conditions I do expect to persist, and the opportunity to see temperatures build because of that could be a problem. Unfortunately, if you've been dry lately, I don't have much better news for you, at least in the short term. We're going to look at the island by island rainfall outlook over the next 3 days. But I can tell you here, and if you just go back to the last video, the next 7 days looks to be very dry through our area, with a few exceptions, but only a few. Now, I do want to start off with what's potentially going to be wrapping up in the Pacific. I mentioned this in yesterday's video. All of that energy was moving west, and along this trough, we could potentially see our first spin up just south of Mexico here in the next 5 to 7 days. The Hurricane Center is putting a 30% chance of development in this area in yellow as it moves west away. Again, it could bring some heavy rain and some storms along the Pacific coastline of Central America, but typically or generally moving away from the area and actually pulling some of the moisture away from us. So Panama and Costa Rica would actually enjoy that because they've been too wet again, but other areas that desperately need that rain, again, a couple of reasons. One, the wind fields are pulling away from our area, and two, the Saharan dust layer is still certainly in play. It is going to be a factor in keeping us relatively dry here over the next 7 days. So let's break it down for you here. I'm going to start off in Jamaica. And I am just basically going to let this loop run over the next 7 days. And again, you have a specific question about the forecast, please feel free to drop it in the comments section below. And I certainly want to hear from you guys. Keep me apprised as to how things are going in your area. I always love to get that ground truth information. It really helps me to detail and do the fine particulars of the forecast here at Meteo Mundo, so I do appreciate you very much. My friends in Savannah, Lamar, Montego Bay, Mandeville, Maypen, Portmore, Spanish Town, Kingston, Ocho Rios, Port Antonio. We're looking at an isolated shower at best over the next 5 days. Many dry hours and locations could pop off a shower storm later on this Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, we're looking at best about a 20% chance for showers. Again, there's no real transport of tropical moisture coming back into play. It's just as dry or even drier for the Cayman Islands. Now, again, an area that wouldn't mind a little bit drier weather is going to be the Dominican Republic and Haiti. We've had some fairly wet weather there. And this, sadly, will be one of the areas that still has the better chance for rain across our area, but it's much lower than what it was last week. I'm talking about a 20 to at best 30% chance for mainly afternoon showers in an isolated storm. And you can see that here rolling all the way through Friday. If we start it up, we'll pop off a few each and every day. So I don't think the island any one afternoon is going to be completely dry. But again, many dry hours and locations. You should not expect a lot of rain or anything too concentrated. You might catch a downpour, you might catch a thunderstorm, but it's probably in and out of your area very quickly, and you might only get that one of the next 5 days. We've certainly dried out through the Turks and the Caicos as well. I would not mind seeing some drier weather, and I'm sure you wouldn't either if you live in Puerto Rico, and our thoughts are still with you and our friends in places like St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, Tortola, Roatan areas. It's been pretty wet. I mean, obviously in Puerto Rico and portions of the U.S. Virgin Islands as well. So we'll pop off a few isolated showers still again, but nothing that's too concentrated, and I'm hoping we're getting enough dry hours here for San Juan and Ponce and Aguadilla where we start to see this flood threat diminish. But again, it's going to be hot. There's a heat advisory for today. Temperatures above 90 degrees, feels like temperatures running at or above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see the situation for the Leeward Islands as well. Spotty rain coming in. Now look, we're still in the situation where the best moisture content is farther north. So Anguilla and St. Bartholomew and Ceiba and Barbuda and Antigua, Montserrat will have better rain chances overall than areas south like Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago. Again, the Saharan dust layer is a little bit thinner in this area, but air quality at best is moderate. There's some haze in the sky right now as well. And again, isolated rain for Guadeloupe and Dominica and Martinique, but you should just not expect anything that's going to really alleviate any of your drought concerns or your dry concerns or really, understating the brush fire threat. I mean, all of that will still be a problem that will be with us at least over the next week. There are some signs potentially of beginning to get us a little bit wetter weather starting next week at this time, but I don't want to get too far forward in that forecast. I don't want to have a lot of speculation in the forecast. We're going to talk about the here and the now. Again, very isolated Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, Grenada. Now, Trinidad and Tobago. We are going to be mainly dry the next couple of days, and temperatures again are reaching 33, 34 degrees Celsius for daytime highs in a couple of spots. It's rough. We could, and it does, within the next 5 days, we could start to see a little bit more moisture coming out of the southeast here to provide maybe a slightly better chance for some rain. Again, I'm not overly optimistic, but you can see on Friday, the model does begin to turn with a little bit more moisture transport in from the south and east. That would be great news for our area, but it's still going to be a few days out. When I run this back in, notice early in the week, this area to your south and east is still relatively devoid of moisture. It's not until Friday we start to see that moisture transport come back in. So don't get your hopes up, Trinidad and Tobago, for any better chances for rain, at least anytime soon. In the ABC Islands, again, we're relatively bone dry. I've got about 10% chance for you in this region. But again, the moisture that's coming off the mainland is being pulled into the Pacific. Everything is basically being transported to the west right now, which is why Panama and Costa Rica are getting hammered, and which is why we get to see this moisture and this energy spin up. I'm going to show you the winds coming out of this as well in just a second. And as I've mentioned many times, it's a virtually dry forecast through the Yucatan and much of our Central American locations as well. Potentially, again, some storms along the west coast. I think that's almost a certainty. Then we see a few storms go up towards Tegucigalpa and San Salvador, Guatemala City. But as far as getting as far north as, let's say, Roatan and Belize City, and especially Cancun and Cozumel, not really. And by the way, again, triple-digit heat in those afternoon hours. For my friends in the Northwest Bahamas, desperate for some rain in this area. Again, we still have storms coming off the United States East Coast, but as I have mentioned, they typically move due east and then slide up the U.S. East Coast this time of the year. These cold fronts just don't make it. These storms stay generally farther to our north. How about our opportunity for some rain? We could potentially get a spotty shower overnight into tomorrow morning. I don't really have a chance for rain in the forecast, but Walker's Key, Grand Bahama, a brief shower is possible. Is it going to really help things out? No, but maybe you get just a little bit of rain. Then we could see an isolated shower roll through the area, potentially on Wednesday with the next storm system. But if we don't get that, we're going to basically be dry over the next 5 days. And Nassau South, I just don't see it, guys. I don't see a lot of rain, if any at all, over the next 5 days. Let's take a look at these wind fields. Now, I mentioned on yesterday's video, there's going to be a lot of wind in the Northwest Caribbean and the Southwest Gulf of Mexico, the Bay of Campeche, but it's devoid of any rain. And that's still going to be the case. We could have some really strong winds in places like northern coastline of Nicaragua and portions of Honduras to Belize and Guatemala up towards the Yucatan. And then we take a look at what's going to be happening here in the Pacific. And again, right towards the end, but even on the 5-day, you don't really see a lot of wind here as of yet. And the Hurricane Center was talking about a 30% chance over 7 days. But right on that eastern side of that yellow is where we could start to see that first spin up. But as far as the strong winds go right now, it again is really going to be through the Northwest Caribbean and the Southwest Gulf of Mexico, where we could be pushing some winds of 25, 30 miles an hour along the coastline. Very strong winds, and then just very steady winds through the ABC Islands and then through portions of the Leeward Islands as well. And again, these are generally easterly winds, but again, because of the Saharan dust, we're basically void of any moisture to provide us enough lift in the atmosphere to really give us any good shot for rain. So let's break down the rain chance in your area. Sadly, it didn't take me too long to figure things out. You notice that these numbers are quite low. Sorry to say that, but this is going to be what we'll all have to get through over the next week. For Jamaica, it's a 20% chance for showers the next few days. The Bahamas, again, a brief shower possible overnight, slightly better chance for an isolated shower on Wednesday. Turks and Caicos, a couple of spotty showers out there. Even the Dominican Republic, just a 20% chance today and tomorrow, 30% chance on Wednesday. Cayman Islands, a rogue shower is possible, but I wouldn't expect a lot of rain there. And then basically a dry forecast for Belize City and Cancun and Cozumel. Next slide doesn't get much better for our friends east. Puerto Rico, 20% chance for showers, but again, I don't mind it being dry for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands over the next few days, although it does mean, again, it's going to get hot. It's going to get steamy. Antigua and Barbuda, 20% chance for showers, and this would include all of the northern side of the Leeward Islands as well. You get down to St. Lucia and you start to see those numbers drop. It's basically a 10% chance for Barbados. Trinidad and Tobago, again, trying to up your chance slightly mid, but especially late week as we start to see some moisture coming in from the south and east. And the ABC Islands, again, I would not expect a lot of rain. I hate to talk about this kind of dry weather when what you've been seeing and been telling me about has been so exceptionally dry, but there's just not a lot in the forecast. And this is the rainfall totals over the next 5 days. Look how devoid we are in our area and how much rain is either to our north or to our south and to our west. So again, the dust layer plays a factor in this, and so does the wind pattern as well. Again, some of the things to look at in the longer term start to flip this pattern sometime next week. I'm going to have a lot more about that coming up, but talking about the here and the now, and the here and the now is dry, 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 dry. Take a look at Jamaica. Not even a reason to try and plot any rainfall data there, because the model says if you catch a spotty shower, you're exceptionally lucky. Look how dry it is relative to last week in portions of Hispaniola. Again, if we catch an isolated shower, which provides a downpour, more than a half of an inch of rain, it's going to be in a couple of spots. That's about it. Once again, one of the areas that could actually have some decent rain is a spot that doesn't need a ton of it. Now, again, we're not talking more than an inch of rain, but we are still talking about breaking out some showers. And again, some of this will occur during the evening and the overnight. It's not just daytime rain for Puerto Rico and the eastern coastal islands in the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands. You could catch some overnight showers and even an isolated storm as well. But obviously, these totals are much lower than what we've had. And generally speaking, we can handle this amount of rain over the next 5 days. There's not a huge flood threat as far as that goes. Once again, not a ton of rain for Anguilla and Antigua and Barbuda. You can see these areas again, a quarter of an inch of rain at best, and we average this out. So I've got to be honest, there's certainly an opportunity that not everyone even gets any rain over the next 5 days. Again, we're kind of looking at averages here. The model is a little bit more aggressive, Guadalupe, Dominica, but maybe just off of the eastern side, because again, it just tries to pile up some of that moisture on the eastern sides of the island. I will cross my fingers and I hope you get some of these more impressive rainfall totals that the model is showing here. But again, if we catch a few showers, it's going to be a day or two out of the week. And again, down towards Trinidad, I want to again mention the moisture beginning to funnel up. So there is more moisture. Hopefully that's going to be streaming into your area by the end of the week. But until then, we still have to deal with a relatively dry forecast in these spots. ABC Islands, Nothing on the model here. Again, you can see all that rich, deep moisture that's to your south. It gets shoved off towards the west. Look at some of these rainfall totals out here in the Pacific. You're talking about areas that are going to be over a foot of rain on our model here. All those yellows are at least 10 inches of rain. Even San Jose is, above 3, Panama above 2. You can see what happens on the Pacific side of Central America. And then you get back into our area here and there's nothing. Unfortunately, a lot of wind by the end of the week, but that's about it. Nothing for my friends in the Cayman Islands. Again, a rogue shower is possible, but we're not planning on much. And you can see just how close some of this heavier rain is to Walker's Key and Grand Bahama. I hope we catch some of it, guys. I really do. Again, I would say in general, the farther north and west that you live in the Bahamas, the better chance for a few showers you got. But there's not a lot over the next 5 days. Friends, you can find us across all of social media. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on X, we're on Facebook. You got a picture or video you want to send me from your area, any business inquiries, of course, it's myMediaMundo@gmail.com. I thank you so much for liking this video. It really helps the channel out. If you're not a subscriber and you got something out of this content, click that subscribe button right now. Please share it with your family and friends. Have a great rest of your Monday. I'll see you soon right here at Media Mundo.